This is the Realest Realtor podcast hosted by Carmellita Turner, the realest realtor you know. Episodes are here each and every Wednesday at 3 p.m. because this is the show where people are interested in engaging in real conversations that talk about real life and how very real situations impact how we are able to leverage our wealth building ability through real estate. We're so glad you decided to join us. I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up to the Realest Realtor podcast. We apologize for the delay in today's episode, Literary Therapy. Realtors need therapy too. However, we are people who continually persevere here at the Realest Realtor podcast. And I am so excited to say that this is our 20th episode. That's right, 20th episode. And I'm so proud of myself today as I was trying to navigate with the team to figure out our audio difficulties. I discovered an Instagram page that belongs to Goal Standard, Goal Standard. And their post from February said, "Start that podcast, sis." And I kind of tapped myself on the back because I tell you, I have really been having some difficulties just in processes and development of different things that are necessary whenever your business or even in your life, whenever you're ascending to a new level. Boy, does it come with a new devil. So I was so thankful to that particular contributor on Instagram for giving me some encouragement today. They actually used to be called the Glow Up podcast, and they said that they specialize in detailing the grind that comes before the shine. So I think many times people see our shine, which we are eternally grateful for, and we know that here on the earth, us shining as entrepreneurs is so important so that others know that the possibility is available to all. But many times they miss out on the grind that goes behind that. Many times we feel like it's going to take us out, but we have continually learned to persevere. I am so grateful to my loving support circle and all of my success partners and my success partner circle as well. They encourage me. We continually encourage each other. And so I continue to press on. During this time of pandemic, I pray that everyone is doing well, staying safe, staying sane. And I was so excited to roll out this new feature, Literary Therapy, that we're going to be carrying throughout the podcast every month. Because I think it's a time where people now are really being a lot more reflective. They're going inward and really thinking about what matters the most. I don't know if anyone heard recently Chris Cuomo, who, thank God, is recovering well after being diagnosed with COVID-19. You know, he's even reflecting on if his time is best spent being an anchor on his show there on CNN. Because I think this pandemic that has given the world pause is making us all take a look at what really matters. I don't know if you listened to the podcast last week. I hope you're listening to it each and every week. Last week we had our celebrity guest on, Nima Williams, who is a standout comedian. He's been in the game for a long time, has a powerful story, a powerful testimony that he shares across all of his platforms. So please make sure you support and follow him, Nima, N-E-M as in Mary A. Williams. But he talks about not only, how laughter can feed the soul, but just the connections and things that he had made over his career and throughout his life. I soon found out even his mom has a powerful story, and she wrote a book. So we never know who we encounter day to day. But I do know that for myself, my life is filled with many joys. It's filled with many pains, many frustrations, disappointments, chaos, encouragement, the full gamut. And I live my life through many avenues, music being one of them, as I have often said, but also, like in my discussion with Nima, laughter. I do feel that laughter is so important, obviously, since I'm trying to launch a comedy career, right? So obviously, laughter is pretty important to me. Quiet time is important to me. I don't have a problem being alone. I actually enjoy it. I'm not fearful of it. I am an introverted extrovert. I really only am extroverted when the occasion calls for it, but my ideal place is at home. I love home, and quiet time helps me decompress and quiet my thoughts and really organize what it is that I'm doing. I love quality time. Oh my God, especially with somebody I'm over the moon in love with, like a family member, my pumpkin, a mate, a friend, a pet, and a good book. Oh my gosh, quality time with a good book, that is the best for me. I am a voracious reader, always have been. And that is how I came upon this trademarked term, literary therapy, from my dear, dear success partner circle, friend, and accountability partner, Morgan B. Holland. And this term of hers, she says that it's a noun, that literary therapy includes written works that are intended to pivot psychological perspective to aid in the healing of psychological disorder through reading aloud or silently. This also includes literature read and or signed to an audience. And I thought that was so neat because as we've been seeing so many of the press briefings here recently, we'll always see someone conducting American Sign Language. I know my own daughter speaks multiple languages, and it just so happens American Sign Language, ASL, is one of them. And so I see the passion in the folks who are signing for those in the audience who are hearing impaired or deaf. And when I saw Morgan's definition, I was like, wow, it was so comprehensive, so inclusive. The definition alone of literary therapy just spoke to me, and it definitely was a segment I wanted to add and share with the listening audience. There's so many books that are staples in my library, whether it's The Alchemist or Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, The Four Agreements, Powernomics by Dr. Claude Anderson. I mean, so many books are staples in my library that have really fed my soul, fed my mind, encouraged me in some type of way. I'm always the one who can think of a book to refer to folks if they're having some type of issue that they need to combat, or confusion, frustration, sometimes even in the midst of their joy. I'm like, oh, you should read this book. You really may like it. It may add to your feeling of euphoria. So those are things that have always been so important and critical to me. And another staple, obviously, in my library is what I'm going to share with you today, a few offerings from the Merge, Love Yourself to Freedom. This book by Morgan B. Holland, I thought was so appropriate during this time as we are being more introspective and really taking a look at how we show up for ourselves, how we are loving on ourselves. Let me tell you something. And I keep it real with the audience. Carmellita has not been loving Carmellita the way that she should be for a long time. And I suspect that many in the audience may feel the same way. Whether it pertains to you just in your life, in your business, in your behaviors that you're executing for your wealth acquisition through real estate. Yeah. All of that is impacted by how well you are executing self-care. So let me just share with you a little bit from the book jacket. And for many of my listeners, I know you all have this book, so I'm going to ask you to grab your copy, kind of follow along with me. If you don't have this copy, head on over to Amazon.com and search for The Merge, Love Yourself to Freedom by Morgan B. Holland. Not only pick up The Merge and pick up the second book as well, because let me tell you, after you finish this one, you're going to want to go right into that second book, and books 3 and 4 are dropping soon. This is part of a series. There is an audiobook there as well, which probably will do it a lot more justice than I'm about to do, but I'm going to give it a try. Dr. Mai Amor Hart is a business mogul, mother, and wife. She lives a luxurious life with her husband, Deputy Commissioner William Hart. However, she's deeply unfulfilled. Mai became so good at taking care of others, she neglected herself. She doesn't know who she is anymore. She only knows what she has accomplished. Mai has to decide what's of more value, her current life or finding her true self. She chooses herself and her life goes haywire. Isn't that crazy? When we choose ourselves, others can't handle that. Our lives go haywire. That's crazy. Mai discovers her husband is cheating on her and that she's the one financing his affairs. That joker. Her son Tim has an irreversible run-in with the law and he is looking for her to save him. Mai looks to reignite an old flame, not knowing if it is too late or too soon. She relinquished attachments to old identities and beliefs while expressing painful truths that threatens relationships and pushes boundaries. As she's strengthening her authentic voice, using it as her guide, someone from her past is trying to permanently silence her. Mai is embarking on this journey to her authentic self and exposing her vulnerabilities at the worst possible time. However, she has decided to love herself to freedom by any means necessary. And many times we have to make that decision. I deal with a lot of clients on a daily basis who are denying themselves the ability to execute the actions needed so that they can secure dirt, so they can secure real estate, those wealth acquisition properties that will bless them now and bless their legacies later, because they feel shame or guilt surrounding things like their credit or lack of a down payment, whatever it may be. And I am very aware of this. I'm very cognitive of this. And I often seek help from others to help me understand how to best assist them in shedding those feelings and those emotions. That's why I find literary therapy for myself. Yeah, realtors need therapy too. In books like The Merge, Love Yourself to Freedom, so that I can be a better professional to serve my clients. Because a lot of what realtors do, believe it or not, is psychology 101. And so we are helping our clients overcome many things other than the specific items in purchasing homes and investment properties. You'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't. For many people, this is the largest purchase they'll ever make in their lives. So for those of you following along in your book, we're just going to go to page 2. I'm just going to read a small excerpt starting there on page 2 from the book, just to give you a little bitty taste of how great the literary therapy is that comes from this first book in the series of The Merge. Must you make me be a witness to this murder? Nobody told me it was sleigh day, said Kara as Mai walked into the office. Mai blushed and gave a slight smirk at her assistant's dramatics. She recently celebrated her 38th birthday, but appeared to have found the fountain of youth. She was a vegetarian and a yoga enthusiast before it was cool. Her style is a blend of sophistication with a sexy flair, and her shoe collection is unmatched. She has her own private practice, amongst other businesses. She's an author, wife, and mother to a beautiful son and daughter. Happy anniversary, said Kyra, as she handed Mai an envelope with a gift certificate for a full body massage at Time Out Studios. Thank you, Kara, said Mai as she hugged her. You really didn't have to do this, added Mai. Please, Doc, after all you've done for my family and for me, this is the least I can do. Plus, this is your 20-year wedding anniversary, said Cara, clapping her hands ecstatically. Wait, hold on now. Didn't you just turn 38 like 3 days ago? So y'all literally got married as soon as you turned 18? Oh gosh, he was pressed. Ma laughed and started walking to her office. Oh, Dr. Hart, your 9 o'clock, Congressman Harrison, will be about 20 minutes late. And you also have a walk-in in the small conference room. She seems a little off, said Cara. Thank you, Cara. Can you send the walk-in to my office in about 10 minutes? And you can call me Mai, she replied. Oh, that's going to be a no for me, Doc. You spent too many years in school to be a Mai. You are Dr. Mai Hart, the go-to psychologist for the rich and disturbed, said Cara. Mai laughed at Cara's response and shook her head as she walked into her office and closed the door behind her. She put her things down on her desk and began to get lost in her thoughts. Today is her 20-year wedding anniversary, and all she could think about was Emerson Avery Birch. They met nearly 25 years ago in high school under a sycamore tree. Ma daydreamed about how different her life would have been if he had just stayed that night after the school dance. A cold chill ran through her back as she thought about that awful night. However, now with spouses, kids, careers, reputations, and so much more on the line, Mai knew she could not risk it. She couldn't risk shaking up everybody's life around her for her desires. But she couldn't help but feel that she's so caught up in keeping others happy that she's not even living. Busy making grand plans for a life she's not even a part of. She felt stuck, and her growth was stunted, trying to keep from overshadowing her husband. While she was both eternally grateful for all she has accomplished, she was still deeply unfulfilled. She wasn't willing to risk it all for Emerson because that would be foolish. To risk it all for a feeling that might not be mutual or worse, not sustainable, that's a chance no one could take. However, Mai was willing to risk it all for herself, win, lose, or draw. She was willing to face whatever consequences she had to face on her path to speaking her truths and becoming her authentic self. The knock on the door snapped Mai out of her trance. "Come in," she said as she stood up and straightened her black Clio knit pencil skirt that accentuated her broad hips and fell to a high-low flare at the hem. Her cushiony Edox crisp white blouse fitted her perfectly, as if it was designed for the 12-inch difference between her bust and waist. Her Inman red lipstick popped on her perfect white teeth. She smiled as she walked over to greet her guest, reaching out to shake her hand with perfectly almond-shaped nude nails. The sun shined through her office, aiding in the natural glow of her flawless deep mahogany skin. At 5'8", 150 pounds, her hourglass physique was exceptionally toned, and her body gave off a natural, seductive scent. She embodied what it means to be a successful Black woman, and she represented the culture well. "Have a seat," Mai said to her guest as she pushed her long, straight black hair behind her ears. With legs crossed, Mai said, "Hi, my name's Dr. Hart. It's a pleasure to meet you. Unfortunately, I don't have much time, and I don't usually take walk-ins. However, how can I help you?" The lady looked at Mai with squint-piercing eyes, and through clenched teeth took a deep breath in her mouth and slowly let it out through her nose. Mai took notice of the woman's behavior, but remained calm and relaxed. She leaned back in her chair and asked again, "How can I help you, Miss Jagger?" replied the woman. "Lohruhama Jagger," said the woman. Mai was slightly puzzled, trying to figure out why the name sounded oddly familiar. Lohruhama. Lohruhama at that point crossed her eyes and said, "It's not a random ghetto name." "It's Hebrew?" asked Mai. "I'm just trying to remember where I've heard it before." The woman looked surprised by Mai's response. "I've never met another person with my name, and I'm probably the first Black person of Jewish descent you've met," said Lohruhama. No, actually, I know a guy, said Mai, as she grinned and thought about Emerson. Annoyed by her happiness, Lo Ruhama reached into her purse and pulled out a big bag of pills and handed them to Mai. Mai began to read through the pills, becoming a little more concerned with each bottle she read. Lo Ruhama then said, I need you to wean me off these pills. I am a psychologist, said Mai. You've weaned others off of pills, snapped Lo Ruhama. You've helped others get off of pills. Why can't you help me? Said Lo Ruhama. She leaned in towards Mai. I've helped people get off of one or two different types of pills that were used for lower degrees of various disorders, and I did this in conjunction with their psychiatrist, explained Mai in a calm manner. Lo Ruhama stood up and slammed her hands on Mai's desk and yelled, You are a psychiatrist. You know what each one of these pills is for, and you know the side effects. I also have a pretty good idea of the reason you're on them, said Mai, as she stood up and slowly backed away from the woman. And for the record, I am not an acting psychiatrist. Yes, I have an MD. However, I chose the field of psychology over psychiatry. I am a licensed psychologist. You chose psychology because you believe people are over-medicated and the pharmaceutical industry is a big scam working in conjunction with the doctors, said Lo Ruhama. Mai clasped her hands together and said, While I do have my thoughts on the pharmaceutical industry and practices of certain pharmaceutical sales representatives, it's not that simple. I believe that we must consider the mind, body, and spirit of a person and not just consider one area at a time. The human experience is multifaceted. Sometimes mental disorders are a result of something that's unresolved from the past or currently ongoing. Certain traumas cause chemical imbalances, some deficiencies are attributed to genetics, and some people's everyday faculties and behaviors are just at a certain point on the spectrum that the norm is not comfortable with accepting. Lo Ruhama sat back down in the love seat, seemingly pleased with Mai's response. Mai said, I know why I'm here and why I chose to do this work. Why are you here? What do you want from me? Asked Mai. Lo Ruhama replied, I need you to recommend my doctor to take me off those meds. Mai watched as the woman's face changed expressions rapidly. She could tell Lo Ruhama was trying her best to remain in control, but that was ultimately a losing battle. Lo Ruhama said, If you can get me off the meds, then my mom won't think I'm crazy and I can get what's left of my family back, said the woman as she began to slightly twitch, walking slowly towards Mai. Suddenly, 2 police officers barged in, grabbed Lo Ruhama, and detained her. You called the police? Yelled the woman. Mai stood up and let out a long sigh. Kara walked in and hugged her. Are you all right? Kara asked. I'm fine, thanks, replied Mai. You owe me, yelled Lo Ruhama. You ruined my life. I came here to give you a chance to make things right. Now you will pay. I will ruin your family like you ruined mine, yelled Lo Ruhama. The police yanked the woman out of the office. Let's go, ma'am, yelled one of the officers as he pulled her out of Mai's office. Mai grabbed the woman's bag of pills and gave them to the other officer. These are her meds. She's severely mentally disturbed. She's an outpatient at this mental hospital, said Mai, as she wrote down the name on a sticky note. I think she may be having an episode, but you can find her doctor's info on her medication. Thank you so much, officer, said Mai. Anytime, ma'am. I'm here to serve. I hope your day goes up from here, said the officer as he smiled and walked out of Mai's office. Even in the midst of turmoil, you can still pull him, said Kara, as she watched the police officer turn the corner down the hall. He's cute, young but cute. That silent alarm came in handy, said Kara. My son is probably 2 or 3 years younger than that officer, chuckled Mai. I'm glad you were here, said Mai. I saw that red light and sprung into action, said Kara. That's because I went to the Beyonce concert last week. Now I know how to hop in formation, said Kara. Mai laughed, bending over holding her stomach as Cara acted out how she saw the light and called the police with extensive animation. "I needed that, Cara. Thank you," said Mai. "No, thank you," said Cara. "There is no way I was going to let a crazy take you out on my watch," she chuckled. "Oh yeah, the congressman had to reschedule. Should I reschedule the rest of your clients for the day?" asked Cara. Mai thought for a moment and said, "Sure. Thanks, Cara. And you can leave too. It's Friday. Go ahead and start your weekend early." So I'm just going to stop right there. I just wanted to give you a little bit of flavor at how wonderful not only this book is, but just the literary therapy that I get from reading books like this. Delving into the lives of the characters, learning about who they are, what makes them tick. Although I'm not a doctor like Dr. Mai Hart, I am someone who often has a lot of eyes on me. And during those times, I might have 100 different things running through my mind, but I don't have the ability to act on them or to really process them in the manner that I want, because I have to show up and be present for everyone else that's depending on me or relying on me to execute something. So Cara is definitely an example of a wonderful support system that Mai has. And I also get to learn so much during literary therapy. I don't know how many of you may know about Cushioning at Ox. It's a luxury couture brand, a luxury designer brand worn by people like Michelle Obama, Rihanna. So I love when books are exposing people to all of these new things. You can lose yourself in a good book. And the therapy that comes out of that is something that helps you process things in your own life, to find yourself in those pages and really begin making sound decisions to move beyond where you are stuck. Let me just read a little bit to you from the epilogue and we're going to close out. "Self-love is the most underutilized resource of mankind. If we could only manage to love ourselves, allow the ego to experience love to itself and from its higher self. As a coping mechanism, the ego is often frozen into fear and inaction due to its inability to comprehend the how, and slowly it seems to make peace with mediocrity, finding tranquility in the comfortability of settling." Come on, y'all. Get you some literary therapy today. If you don't find it in this book, if you don't want to pick up The Merge, which I am encouraging you to do, Amazon.com, The Merge, Love Yourself to Freedom. And the second book is there as well, Merge 2. You definitely owe it to yourself to move beyond barriers that are causing you to settle for mediocrity in your life, mediocrity in your professional circles, being out of alignment with what you do to make a living, not living, just existing. Things that are deplenishing your energy, things that are preventing you from taking bold action towards building your wealth nest. Look at the state that we are currently in. Who would have thought an invisible enemy would literally cause upheaval to a global economy that is impacting everyone? If you are not someone that had a secure financial standing, and even if you did, it's getting a little shaky right now for people. If you're not someone that had multiple avenues, I'm telling you, it's just, books help me kind of process through so many things in my mind. And I'm hoping that literary therapy will do this for you each and every month. I'm encouraging you to spend some time looking inward, thinking about what it is that you need to unplug. If you own a home and you don't own investment properties, we need to connect so you can unplug and begin. More properties are being bought up and will be snatched up during this time of pandemic and through the end of 2020 than ever before. Mark my words. I want to be here for you. And one of the things I want to remind you why it's so important to give yourself some literary therapy, quiet time to think about things that you want to unplug and remove so that you're no longer blocked. I follow this pastor, Eric Thomas. He's all over YouTube. You can find him. He's the hip hop preacher. And the funny thing, well, I don't know, it's very funny, it's kind of sad. He said, people will suck the life out of you and find someone else when you die. Is that not the truth? Things that we align ourselves with will deplete us and drain us on a regular basis. And the minute that we die, whether we die spiritually or physically, whether it's we lose all of our ambition or light, they'll replace us with someone else. Thank you guys for rocking with me and being patient. Thank you for showing up. Happy 20th episode to me, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening to the Realest Realtor podcast. Head over to Call Carmellita for Real Estate, all spelled out, on IG, and look in our bio to click on our link so you can connect with us across all platforms. Please subscribe to the podcast here on Anchor and Spotify, and we'll see you next week.